Welcome back. We are still on the topic graph of quadratic functions. In the previous video, we solved a question on using the graph of a quadratic function to find the solution of another quadratic equation. In this video, we are going to solve another question. The question for this video is: form a table of corresponding values of x and y given the relation y is equal to 4 plus 5x minus 2x squared for this interval. Then we will choose an appropriate scale and draw the graph of y is equal to 4 plus 5x minus 2x squared for this interval using the values in the table. We have learned how to do this already. So we will go to the last part of our question, which is that from the graph, find the truth set of 7 minus x squared is equal to 0. So we are going to use the graph of this function, that is the function y is equal to 4 plus 5x minus 2x squared, to find the solution of the equation 7 minus x squared is equal to 0. Then we will write our answer as a truth set. As we can clearly see, the quadratic expression in the function is different from the quadratic expression in the equation. The quadratic expression in the function is 4 plus 5x minus 2x squared. The quadratic expression in the equation is 7 minus x squared. We have learned that when you have such a case, to find the solution of the equation, you first have to compare the coefficient of the quadratic term in the equation to the coefficient of the quadratic term in the function. So let's do that. The function is y is equal to 4 plus 5x minus 2x squared. The equation is 7 minus x squared. The quadratic term in the function is minus 2x squared. The quadratic term in the equation is minus x squared. From here, we can see that the coefficient of the quadratic term in the function is minus 2. So we have minus 2 here. And the coefficient of the quadratic term in the equation is minus 1. As we can clearly see, the coefficient of the quadratic term in the equation is different from the coefficient of quadratic term in the function. We have learned in the previous video that when you have such a situation, you multiply the equation by a constant or a number such that the coefficient of the quadratic term in the equation will be the same as the coefficient of the quadratic term in the function. We can see that the coefficient of the quadratic term in the function is minus 2. The coefficient of the quadratic term in the equation is minus 1. So we are going to multiply minus 1 by a number such that you will get minus 2. What number should we multiply by minus 1 in order to get minus 2? That number is 2, because minus 1 times 2 will give us minus 2. This means that we will have to multiply this equation by 2. So we are going to multiply this whole equation by 2. So you have 2 times 7 minus x squared is a binomial, so you have to put it in a bracket. So 2 times 7 minus x squared, and this is equal to 2 times 0, because whatever you do to the left hand side, you do the same thing to the right hand side in an equation. 2 times 7 will give us 14. 2 times minus x squared will give us minus 2x squared. 2 times 0 will give us 0. So you have 14 minus 2x squared is equal to 0. We can now see that after multiplying the equation by 2, the coefficient of the quadratic term in the equation is equal to the coefficient of the quadratic term in the function. We have learned in the previous videos that after multiplying the equation by a constant to make sure that the coefficient of the quadratic term in the equation is the same as the coefficient of the quadratic term in the function, you will have to subtract the resulting equation from the function. So in this example, we are going to subtract 14 minus 2x squared is equal to 0 from the function, which is y is equal to 4 plus 5x minus 2x squared. So I'll write the function first. I'll rearrange the function and write it in the general form of a quadratic function. This means that I'll write the square term first. I'll write the x term as the second term, then I'll write the constant as the last term. So I'll have y is equal to minus 2x squared plus 5x plus 4. I'm going to rearrange this equation also in the same form. So I'll have 0 on the left hand side, then is equal to, I'll write the square term first, so minus 2x squared. There is no x term here, so I'll write it as plus 0x because 0x is the same as 0. So we have plus 0x, then I'll write the constant as the last term, so plus 14. So we are going to subtract this equation from this function. So we are going to subtract the equation here. So we are going to subtract the equation from the function. Okay, let's start. We will have y minus 0, and this will be equal to minus 2x squared minus 2x squared, and that will give us plus 2x squared. Then you have 5x minus 0x. Then you have 4 minus 14. Y minus 0 will give us y. Minus 2x squared plus 2x squared will cancel each other out. So minus 2x squared plus 2x squared will give us 0. Then 5x minus 0x will give us 5x. 4 minus 14 will give us minus 10. So we have y is equal to 5x minus 10. So after subtracting the quadratic equation from the quadratic function, we have a linear function y is equal to 5x minus 10. We have learned that to find the solution of this quadratic equation, we will have to draw the graph of this linear function on the same graph sheet as the quadratic function. So this is the graph of the quadratic function y is equal to 4 plus 5x minus 2x squared. We are going to draw the graph of the linear function y is equal to 5x minus 10 on this same graph sheet. We have learned that to draw the graph of this linear function, we will need at least 2 points that falls on the line. So we will assume a value for x, substitute it into the equation to get its corresponding y value. Then we will do the same thing to get another point. After that, we will plot those 2 points on the graph sheet and join them with a straight line to get the graph of the linear function. So let's find y when x is equal to 0. So our first assumption is x is equal to 0. When x is equal to 0, y will be equal to 5 times 0 minus 10. And this will give us y is equal to minus 10. So when x is 0, y is minus 10. We will need another point. So let's make another assumption for x. When x is equal to 4. When x is equal to 4, y will be equal to 5 times 4 minus 10. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 minus 10 is 10. So when x is equal to 4, y is equal to 10. So our second point is 4, 10. So we now have 2 points that fall on this line. We can plot them on the graph sheet. The first one is 0 minus 10. So we have 0 on the x-axis, then minus 10 on the y-axis. So we have the point here. Then the next one is 4, 10. So 4 on the x-axis and 10 on the y-axis. So we have the point here. We join these 2 points with a straight line to get the graph of the linear function y is equal to 5x minus 10. So now on this graph sheet, we have the graph of the quadratic function y is equal to 4 plus 5x minus 2x squared, and the graph of the linear function y is equal to 5x minus 10. How do we use this graph to find the solution of the quadratic equation 7 minus x squared is equal to 0? We have learned from the previous videos that the solution of this quadratic equation will be the x coordinates of the points of intersection of the quadratic curve and the straight line. So we first have to locate the points of intersection of the quadratic curve and the straight line. The first point of intersection is here, and the second one is here. The solution of this equation will be the x coordinates of these points of intersection. So to get the first solution, we will trace the first point to the x-axis, Then to get the second solution, we trace the second point to the x-axis. On my graph, when I trace the first point to the x-axis, I'm getting minus 2.7. And when I trace the second point to the x-axis, I'm getting 2.7. So from the graph, the solution of this quadratic equation is minus 2.7 or 2.7. But the question said we should write our answer as a truth set. So we are going to write our solution as a truth set. So from the graph, the truth set of the equation 7 minus s squared is equal to 0 is s is such that x is equal to minus 2.7 or 2.7. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe to this channel for more videos. In the next video, we are going to solve another question on using the graph of a quadratic function to find the solution of another quadratic equation. Bye bye.